So part two to our working with Kajabi landing pages, the basics, is we want to look at blocks. So as we can see, we're in one of the sections within this page, okay? This one here. And that's the other thing. If you want to actually get into a section to work on blocks, the easiest way to do that is you can click on a section and it will then open up all of the blocks so that you can see them on the left-hand side. Because sometimes as we're working through pages, like if we click on things, we go, okay, great. But you might not know, what particular section it is that you're working in. And another tip for you on this is try to name the sections as you're working through them. So we have the little 3 dots that appear when you hover over each section, and if you go and rename it, I find this really handy because say if you ever want to come back to one of these pages down the track, or you're duplicating it and you want to reposition some of the components around, it's really easy to go, oh, you know what, I want the freebie opt-in, I'm going to move that up to the top, and I want to move this down here. If you name them, you know exactly what you're working in, because if you were to go and just add a section, Kajabi just names them hero or form and text or just text. And when you start adding a whole lot of sections in all with the same name, you're going to get very confused very quickly and you don't know what's what. So it's another good tip, just name them and then you'll know what they are. All right. So getting back to within each section though, we have the same thing. We can also name our blocks. So you can hover over and rename each of the blocks too. Adding content, you are going to just choose the block and then throw it within the section. Now within a text block, something that I wanted to cover because we do this a lot in working with my templates. Say you have for instance, this one, we have 3 different types of styles of text. So we have this one which is written in capitals, and then we have this one which is more of a heading font, and then we have like another couple of different fonts here, but they're all different. So say if you get a template or you're working in it, or you come back to a page and you wanted to make some changes, but you don't want to mess up any of the styling that's done, here's a couple of my top tips on that. So number 1, you can click on what we call the source code tool, which is over here. So all of these are a set of tools that you get to use. So if we click on the source code, it opens it up and we can see here that we can see all of the components that we have written inside that block. And here is the lines. Just say we wanted to change this one, I would just highlight the text within that line, and then I just simply type over the top of it. And then I haven't messed up the H1 tag or any of the styling or anything to do with it at all. So that's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is within your box here, you can hover over all of the line minus the first letter and then type over the top of it. If you were to type over the top of the whole line, right, it then actually removes all the styling and you're back to square one, and it just puts it in as a paragraph and you've lost it all. So in order to keep the styling, simply highlight after the first letter. Once you've put your sentence in, then you simply go back and you backspace and you just delete the first letter and all of the styling stays. So that's my top trick on working within text blocks if you don't want to lose any of the styling that possibly has already been done in there. The other thing to consider too is it gets really hard working in these text blocks because they're so small within this area. So always use the full screen. This is like a good little trick, and that way you've got everything, you can see what you're doing, like it's nice and neat, you've got the whole site page there. The only issue to remember here is that there's nowhere in this section here to save. So if you're doing a lot of work and you're concerned that you might lose it or something happens, there's a computer outage, it's happened before, then click on the full screen again to come out of it, and then click on save, so that you're always constantly saving your work. Okay, so that's my other top tip for working with text blocks. Now let's move down to another section just so we can cover all of these. So as when we were looking at our sections, we had our blue dots that would appear. The same applies to within each section. So if I sort of hover over this, I can see this is a block. I can do the same for this block. As I come in, I can see that's one block. There's another block and there's another block there, okay? It's just handy to know, oh, okay, so that's a whole block and so on. And once again, you can click inside these blocks and they'll too also open up on the left-hand side for you to then work in them. All right, so the only other things to keep in mind with the blocks were, again, the settings within the desktop layout, whether you wanted to set them as equal heights, like the positioning, of the alignment of them, that sort of thing. But other than that, you can dive into each block, and it doesn't matter what block it is, you're going to have a few similar elements within them. So if you're working with images, they'll typically have an image action. So you can actually click or say that you want the image when clicked on to go to a link. Okay, so you can click, you've got all these options. Or likewise, it can also have a downloaded file put next to it. Open up a two-step opt-in. You've got a few different options there. Text we've already discussed, like you just go in there and work in as a normal text block. You get to alter the image style. This is in a feature block, mind you. You can hide the image, you can set the image, you can put in the alt attribute, meaning the name for the image. So like write a description. This is really good for SEO. Google and search engines will then go searching for the content that you've put in there, because remember, they can't see images. So it's another good way for you to build up your SEO. Call to action. Do you want a call to action? If you do, what do you want it to say? Again, what button actions do you want to put in there? What styling do you want to do for the button? Do you want to change each of the buttons? This is where you're going to do it. Background. Each block, just like our section, has the ability for you to set a background color. Okay, so if we do that, we can see the background color kicks in there. Just going to put that as white for now. And then you can also set a border type, border width, border color, border radius, meaning like, do you want, if you were going to have a border, like, do you want it to have like rounded, soft curved edges, or do you want them straight edges? Do you want to have a shadow? Again, all fairly self-explanatory, but they're all components of each block that you need to work your way through to try and get the look that you're after. Okay, so desktop layout, you can align the text in each block. So do you want it set to left, center, right? Again, fairly self-explanatory. The inside and the outside spacing. So again, this one is where we get to sort of really manipulate and move some components around on the page. So for instance, say we wanted to do something like the middle block that we have in here. We didn't want them all lined up. We wanted to give it a different look. So the first thing I need to do is make sure that the equal height blocks is unticked, which it is. And then I'm going to click into this block and I'm going to go and play with the padding, right? So maybe I might want to say, you know what, I want to actually add 200 pixels to the outside of that block. So I can see what that's done now. It's actually now dropped it down. So what it does, again, like the section, it adds the spacing according to whatever the top block, either a block above it or the top of the section. So whichever is sitting above it is where it gets the padding from. Okay, so that's how you can sort of maneuver blocks around and get them into different positions by playing with the padding. All right, every single block has that ability, just like they have the ability to make it flush, meaning you remove all spacing and padding from it. Same with, you know what, I don't want that on there. I want to put it onto its own line. So if I click onto that, it's going to then take it and say, yeah, we're going to throw that particular one on its own row. Okay. You also get mobile settings like we did for the section. Again, you might want to hide it. You might want to redo that block and do it in a particular way for your mobile only. You have that ability. So it's the same. It doesn't matter what block that we add in. They all have different styling options that you can choose. It's just a matter of working your way through each one and going, oh, okay, I want to do this and I want to do that. All right. So it was just a real quick basics on how do we work in Kajabi, so we can see that we can add in blocks. We can change the look of each block. There's lots of different styling options. We can name the blocks just like we can name the sections. We can move blocks around by dragging on these. So if I was to move the text, the title to the bottom, you know, it moves to the bottom. Okay, so that's what these are. We can drag them around and move them into different positions, and the same with our sections. Okay, so they kind of all work very similar, but that is the basics of working in a Kajabi page.